My name is Ricardo Martinez II. I spent 13 years as a 911 dispatcher. This is everything that I'm authorized to tell you. You see what you see on TV and you think, wow, that's what it's going to be. But that first time you end up hearing a parent scream because their child isn't breathing, that is when it's real. And people just are not cut out for it. When there are multiple emergencies that are coming in, we have to start triaging these calls. You are the one who has to decide which one is the highest priority and lowest priority, even when all of them seem like the highest priority. What a 911 dispatcher actually does is they are taking calls from everyone when they are living their worst nightmare. People are not calling in when they're having the best day possible. To this day, some of the sounds that stick with me are those that I heard in these phone calls that I took. A call that I can remember taking was it was a girl who, she had just broken up with her boyfriend, and he kind of started stalking her. And she calls late at night and she says, he's out here and I've seen him walking around the house. I need help. So I get all the information that I need to get. And she tells me that she's in the basement. She's hiding in the basement right now from him. I'm trying to keep her calm. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I'm freaking out there with her because I'm thinking, please don't let this person break into the house. Please help officers get there in time to get to her and to get this guy out of there. And as she's talking, and I can hear it right now, and I can feel the hair in the back of my neck standing a little bit, the doorbell. He hits the doorbell, and it was so loud in my headset that I remember it rattled my ear a little bit. And she goes, yeah, he's hitting the doorbell. And she goes, he's out there. And as I'm typing all of this in, it goes off again. Officers end up getting there on scene, and the guy runs. They end up getting him, and they take him in. Now, if I'm at a hardware store or something and people are hitting doorbells, I've heard it a couple times, and I have stopped. And I think, oh, yep, that was from that call. I've had phone calls before where a mom is calling in hysterical and they have a child that is choking. I'm trying to get the information from her, get the address. Hopefully the information is coming from a landline where it's on the screen and I can start dispatching right away. All I could hear was slapping on the back. And I have to tell the mom, do not slap your child on the back. I will help you with the Heimlich, because if you're hitting them on the back, it's possible it's going to end up getting stuck even further. I've got the mom yelling at me, do you want me to let my child just choke and die? And I'm telling her, no, I've already got help heading out your way. Some of the go-to phrases I think that we try to stay away from. Even in a general argument with someone, you don't always want to tell them, calm down. Just calm down. Like, I need you to calm down. Because what's going to happen? They might go off on you, or it might escalate. I remember telling people, I just need you to try to remain as calm as possible so that we can get people going. And I think though, if your voice is just calm, it's like you're throwing that out there to that person already. It doesn't always work, right? But when you're talking to someone and you're a little more calm in general, that person is going to feel comfortable to begin with. In the back of my head, I'm freaking out just like you are, because I'm human too. You won't hear that. You will just hear the even tone. No matter how ridiculous it might seem to you that I'm asking tons of questions, is to keep you safe and is to get help out to you as fast as possible. There are a lot of times people are calling and they are hysterical. When you are talking to them, it's not going to matter if you raise your voice, because they're not going to hear you. You're basically like white noise. If you bring your voice down to a whisper, it tricks the caller almost, where they will end up thinking, well, is anyone even there? And when they stop and they ask, that's when you jump in. That is when you start asking those questions. There are some phone calls that come in, especially on social media, and this is something that has come up for a few years now, where people will end up posting out there, hey, if you call 911 and you tell them that you want to order a pizza, they know right away that something is going on, you need help. It's a protocol that they use. And I'm just here to tell you that's not true. Now, what I can say, though, is that we are trained to listen for whatever it is that's going on that might sound off. So if you call me and you're asking me to order a pizza, I'm going to tell you, you've reached 911, this is 911. And if they continue to say, yeah, I want pepperoni, mushroom, or however they say it, then I know, hey, this doesn't sound right. Maybe something is going on. So now we switch it to yes or no questions. Are you able to speak right now? No. Is there someone there with you? Yes. Are you in any danger? Yes. So we start going through those questions, but it happens that fast. So the whole pizza thing, it's not something that we practice at all. It's never been an actual protocol. However, because it's been around social media so much, I think people are thinking about it more. When a phone call comes in and I'm asking, where's your emergency? And no one is answering, all I hear is breathing. That is what we call an open line. Now we need to figure out what it is that's going on. This is when our dispatch ear kicks in. Every little thing that is going on within the environment of where that caller is, I am listening to and I am typing everything in. Now, let's say I have an address, I have a location. I'm able to put out, I've got an open line, unknown situation that is going on. I'm typing this in on my side. The main radio dispatcher for law enforcement is watching in real time what I am typing in, and they are toning out for officers. So when I say toning out, what I mean is there are high priority calls that we consider a tone out, and there will be a doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, a tone that'll go over that gets the attention of everyone in the county who's listening so that they know that a high priority call is coming in. If they're close enough, they can go to it. Some of those mistakes that callers make when they are calling in that can slow down responses, help going out towards them, is when they go off on different adventures. And what I mean by that is the story. So when someone is calling in, we need that information. We need the gist. We need to know exactly what it is that is going on. There are some times when callers end up saying, well, so a month ago, and start the whole timeline of what is going on. And we're typing this, and there have been moments where even myself, I've had to say, I need what's going on right now at this moment. You can tell me the rest of the stuff as we're waiting for officers to go there, but I need to know the main reason for why you're calling. And people might see that or hear that as me being rude, but I'm trying to get you help as fast as possible. A lot of times, 911 dispatchers end up becoming almost a chameleon. You become a negotiator, you become a therapist, you are a parent. You're all of these different aspects of life you end up becoming while doing this job. I remember some calls, but one specifically where we had a negotiator coming in, barricaded gunman, but this person had built this rapport, this trust with the 911 dispatcher who was taking the call. And they didn't want to speak to anyone else but that person. They didn't want to get on with the negotiator. The negotiator was on the other line listening and then was feeding different things to the dispatch so the dispatch could tell that person what was going on, getting other information or whichever. You see things in the news and you only know part of the story. But when you get in there, some of those calls that come in, you kind of see the darker part of humanity. And I can't take credit for this, but it's something that I mention a lot is you think about Scooby-Doo growing up and you're watching as a kid and you've got this group who are looking for this monster. But at the end, what those monsters all end up being are human. And sometimes when you're taking these calls, it makes that a reality because monsters are real and they're human. Misconceptions that people have about dispatch is that, or 911 dispatch rather, is that we're simply answering phone calls and sending out help. But they don't realize when you're listening to these phone calls, how they stay with you and how they can impact you as well. Everything is priority one when these calls are coming in. We need to get them help. A call that I took once where a lady was saying that someone was breaking in to their home. Everything sounded real. And of course, immediately we're toning people out, sending them out priority one because there's people breaking into this woman's house. Now, as I'm going through this, the story starts to change a little bit because the person ends up saying that there are two guys that are breaking into her house using chainsaws and they're coming from the floor. And we all have the same CAD system, and CAD, C-A-D, is a computer-aided dispatch. This is where we're typing in all of these complaints that are coming in. And people can see them on their screens as well. They can click into them, they can read them, and maybe it's a call that they've taken before as well. And they will send a message over and it'll pop up on my screen and it'll say, hey, I took a call from that person as well. Make sure you check this narrative in our, what we call our in-house computer, which is a database that has information on past calls and maybe some notes that have been added. The sergeant who had gone out there before goes on the radio and says, Central, that person is starting to go through dementia. I will head out there as well. And it turned out that there was no one breaking into the home. Nothing was going on. So when calls are coming in, we can also just simply click into that complaint, read what is going on, and everyone in the room knows exactly what is going on in pretty much real time. When there are multiple emergencies that are coming in, we have to start triaging these calls. And really, it's the highest priority to the lowest priority. But this happens in split seconds. In a kind of a short scenario, I'm on phones. I'm the only one on phones. It's shift change. It's always busy during shift change, but especially because people are coming home from work. So everyone is on the roads. And I take a phone call for a PI accident or a personal injury accident. This is on the highway. We've got help that's going out there already, and I'm just going through the calls. Another call comes in, a verbal domestic call. They're separated, nothing physical. I've got all of their information. We have someone heading out there as well. And for a verbal domestic, they're toned out. So they're going lights and sirens to get to this because again, anything can happen. Another call is coming in. And because I'm the only one on the phones and who can get that phone call, I have a moment to put them on hold. And there are times where I would go to put someone on hold and I would get yelled at. And I don't blame them because you're calling 911. You have an emergency. Why are you going to put me on hold? But here's the other thing, and it might sound rude, but it's because there are tons of emergencies that are coming in at that same time, and we might be the only person. And when I pick up this other one, this one is a medical, and I have to do CPR. So now I'm doing CPR instructions, and I'm basically there telling them, keep going, kind of timing them out to make sure that they're doing it the way they're supposed to be doing it. Help is already going out there. They're almost there. So there are 3 calls now that are going on. I put them on hold so that I can check on that domestic because the officers are going out. And when I answer that domestic to see if anything has changed, now there's weapons involved. So the question is, who do you stay with? Who do you go to? Do you stay with the domestic where there's now weapons involved and officers are heading that way and you need to update them because this is in progress? Or do you go back to the CPR call where you're trying to help save a person's life? People might say different, but for myself, I go to the domestic because I want to keep my officers safe as they're going out there because there's weapons involved. I'm also trying to keep them separated and get whoever's on the phone with me to a safe space. And this is where people might think, well, why wouldn't you stay with the CPR one? They're doing textbook CPR. EMS has now just arrived. So you've got this one that's left and you're going through it. And hopefully Officers get out there and everything ends up being completely fine. But again, anything happens in 911. But that's just a scenario there where you are thinking on your feet. Now with medical, sometimes if I'm the only one who is on phones, I might have to put you on hold for just a moment so that I can tone out EMS and let them know what's going on. I might mute my microphone. And the reason for this as well is because you're going through this medical situation, and if you hear me toning this out and repeating what it is that is going on, it might elevate you even more, that you start kind of freaking out even more. Recently, a lot of dispatch centers have been hit with short staffing. Nationwide, 1 in 4 seats in 911 centers are left vacant. What makes people most cut out for this job is a lot of it has to do with multitasking, thinking on your feet. And when I first started, my trainer told me that you need 3 things. Number 1 is you need thick skin. Number 2, you need common sense. And number 3, and this was probably the most important one and one that has always stuck with me, is that you need to be human. Even folks that have no experience at all with public safety, you can tell that there's something in their background that they just have that knack for service and wanting to help others. And at the time, all I had was retail management under my belt. And just one day, my mom comes up to me and she says, you know, the chief of police said that they're hiring dispatchers. You should go try it. And I said, Mom, I don't have any experience with 911. I have no idea what they do. I said, I know what I see on TV. I said, you remember my favorite show was Rescue 911 with William Shatner. I said, that's all I know. And she goes, well, you should try. I went and I filled out my application back in 2001. I am in my house and my grandmother comes in and starts yelling at me, Los policías están aquí, ¿qué hiciste? And it was the chief of police. And he goes, I wanted to see if you still wanted the job. I said, I haven't heard from you guys in 2 months. And he goes, you know what? The background process is really long. Do you want the job? And I said, yes, I do want the job. Found out I got the job and I went in that night. And the trainer shows me everything there. He takes a 911 call. I'm watching him. I've never been on this side before, so I am in tune to I'm dialed in to what he's doing. And when he's done, I kind of applaud. I applauded him. And he goes, thanks. And he goes, well, you're next. So now I'm sitting there waiting for this first call to come in, and I am sweating because I'm freaking out. I have no idea what's going to be coming in. And the phone rings, and I answer, Frostproof 911, where's your emergency? And it was a butt dial. Thank the Lord. It was a butt dial. The lady ends up saying, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to call. And I say to her, no, you're okay. I look at my trainer and he goes, well, you got the first one down. About a week or so later, I did have a 40-hour beginner's dispatch course. When I ended up leaving Florida, going back home to Southwest Michigan to finish off my career there, now the training is different. There's 4 different phases. The first phase is phones. The second phase, we end up doing a combination of radios and then backup phones and radios. Same goes into, phase 3. So there's all of these different phases you're going through, but you're learning in that phase 1, all of the protocols, all of the policies, all of the codes, as well as geography. And then you go into phones. And you're taking phones, but you start out with non-emergency calls. So a lot of alarm calls. Whenever alarm calls would come in, and I'm the new one, I'm in training, they would say, Ricardo, this call's for you. It's an alarm call. You got this. And they listen on the other side, and they're critiquing it, scoring us on how well that we are doing with those non-emergency calls. But here's the thing. Sometimes in those non-emergency calls, emergencies come in as well. So now you're jumping into this. And depending on the emergency that's going on, your trainer might actually jump in for you and take it because you haven't done it yet. But sometimes you just go and you just do it because you're the one who's on the call. When I switched from the one center to the other, my training was only 3 to 4 months, and that's because I had about 4 years of experience already going into it. But when you switch from being only one person to now a team, it's not as easy because now you also have the dynamic of working with the team and trying to understand how everyone works together so that you can work like a well-oiled machine. Phase 4 is the shadow phase. So for this training that I've been going through this whole time, we are connected. My trainer is next to me. And some dispatch centers still have this. We called it the umbilical cord, which basically is 2 headsets that are plugged in, and you've got this long cord that is connecting so that you can listen in. But when you go into phase 4 though, now my trainer will be on the other side of the room. And if I need them, then I call for them. Generally, other certifications that we have as 911 professionals is the EMD certification. It is emergency medical dispatch. So you can't take medical calls unless you have that certification so that you can be able to go through and figure out what it is that is going on and what response to get out there. We do have to take classes for CPR, and they end up playing Staying Alive, the song Staying Alive, because it's the same rhythm of what you need for compressions. Another one, Bites the Dust, also is the same rhythm for compressions for CPR. But we definitely have to have those certifications in order to be able to take the medical calls. But while I'm on the phones, I'm not just taking a 911 call, I'm also taking non-emergency calls, answering the radio for fire and for EMS, and I'm typing everything in. So when the phone rings, you answer the phone, 911, where's your emergency? Because we need to know that location. I mean, that's the one thing that we need to hammer to people. Location, location, location. Now here's another thing. Let's say a child calls. They're at home and their parent they find them in the living room laying on their back and they have no idea what's going on. They call 911, but they don't know their address. So now we have to think on our feet. Is there a piece of mail there? Pick that up because the address is on the envelope. Or, are you able to easily see the numbers on your house? There are different ways that we can get the location, but especially for child callers. And it's not just child callers, but even adults, they don't know where they are. They can give us landmarks. Landmarks is probably one of the best things. We tell people, look around you. What do you see? Because a lot of times there might be dispatchers that are working that know that area. During an emergency, for a caller to get help as quick as possible, please answer the questions that we are asking you. The amount of questions that I ask does not delay the time, the response that someone is getting out there to you. Because as soon as you call, as soon as I have that location and I know just even a little bit of what's going on, I'm typing into my system. The other person who's on radios is seeing it and they're already sending it out. We already have people going out there. I buried my calls. I thought that I was leaving those on the shelf at work and they didn't come home with me. But that was a lie. I was just lying to myself. There's a call that I took that really pushed me into starting to talk about these things, sharing stories in the therapeutic spot that hits with these stories that we're able to share when we're ready. It was 2007, November. My grandmother was really sick and she was in hospice care. I was working in dispatch. All of my family were at my aunt's house where my grandmother was. It's the middle of the night. It's about 3:30 in the morning. And my partner on the other side of the room ends up getting up and she goes, "Hey, Ricky, is it okay if I go to the break room?" And I said, "Of course. There's nothing going on anyway," which is like tempting fate because you put it out there in the universe, something is going to happen. She goes into the break room and no later did the door shut, but the phone rings. Now, I never hesitate to pick up the phone. But I hesitated this time, hair in the back of my neck standing up. And I waited for about half a ring because that old phone system that we had, you had to wait half a ring for that information to pop up. And the information pops up, and I recognize the cell phone. And it's my mom's cell phone number. All I could think was, what are the odds that I'm going to be the one to take this call right now? So I pick up. 911, where's your emergency? And it's my cousin. And she says, Richie? And I said, yeah. And she goes, Grandma just died. I couldn't believe it when I was leaving there that I was the one to take the call when my grandmother passed. Now, her and I were really close, but it was that call that ended up pushing me to think, you know what? I need to figure out me. I need to figure out what's going on with myself, because as much as I love this profession and this job that I do and helping people in those rewarding moments, this is killing me on the inside. So I started finally opening up and sharing some of the stuff that was going on, because in any profession, but especially public safety, there's that stigma with mental health where if you start asking for help or you start talking about certain things, your calls or whichever, for me, it was a fear that the people that I worked with would think, well, Ricardo can't hack it anymore. He can no longer do this job. There's this saying of the most important person you will never see. But now people are sharing, people are talking about it. And from that time on, all of these resources started coming out. There are critical incident stress management teams. There are peer support teams that dispatch centers have, where if someone has taken a call and they need help, they reach out to that person. Some other dispatch centers, they have poker chips and they have the logo of their dispatch center on it or whichever, but what they do with that poker chip is they give it to whoever the peer support person is. They don't say it out loud, it's not in an email. They're basically giving them this poker chip to say, hey, I need to talk to somebody. There are a lot of hard things, a lot of chaos, but the other side of it as well is that rewarding piece. Taking calls from someone who's giving birth, hearing that baby be born and the crying. Those are amazing moments. Those are moments to definitely hang on to, being able to help save a life. One of the most important moments I feel for me was early on. It was around 2006, and I kind of needed a win. I'd been taking hard call after hard call after hard call, and one day I take this call from a mom, and she's screaming, she's hysterical. Her kids were all sledding down this hill. It's wintertime. Her youngest daughter, she ended up sledding onto the pond that they had, and it was thin ice, and she couldn't get to her. So I'm getting everyone out. We've got help rushing to her, and I'm on the phone with her. Let me know if anything happens. If she falls through, like, let me know, let me know. Everyone gets there, and we get off the phone, and I'm at the edge of my seat, and I'm listening to the radio, and I'm praying, and all I want to hear is for the fire department to come over the radio and say, we got her. I'm like, please, please, please get her. Please get her. And finally, they come over the radio and they say, we got her. I can exhale. I've been holding my breath the whole time. So we go through it. I was like, oh, a win. I saved her. So glad. One of the things that dispatchers deal with is the fact that we don't always get closure from these calls. We don't always know what it is that goes on in the end. And a little bit after that, my supervisor at the time, she would always get the newspaper and read whatever was on there, right? And she ends up yelling out to all of us in the room, who took this call? And she goes, the family took out an ad, and they're thanking everyone who is involved in saving their daughter. Do you want it? She goes, I'll cut it out for you. And I said, yeah. And she cut it out, and I still have it. A day in the life for a 911 dispatcher can vary depending on the center that you're at, whether you're working 8-hour days or 12-hour days. So I worked midnight shifts. I worked 4:30 p.m. to 4:30 a.m. I've dealt with short staffing as well when I was in dispatch. There's 3 of us there. We also have a overtime list, a force-in list. So if I call down the list and nobody answers, it ends up getting split between the 3 of us. So now that 12-hour shift turns into a 16-hour shift. I would volunteer, because if you volunteer for the time, you go to the bottom of the list, which is always good. I would work it all the way through. So I would be there, just in this example, 4:30 in the evening till 9 in the morning, working that whole time. People were burning out. From about 2016 on till present, everything is different. People are actually talking. They've got the resources. We're able to deal with that mental health and wellness. But it's being away from your family, it's the overtime, it's short staffing, and the types of calls that you end up taking that eventually take a toll on you, and you need to figure out how to work through it. When it comes to 911 professionals, you may or may not know this, but we are not classified as the protective class. We are not considered first responders. We're the first to answer the phone calls, and we're on that call until field responders get out there. We are under admin, administrative, and clerical workers, which I say this all the time, it's nothing against clerical workers or anything at all. There has been a reclassification that's been going through this fight since about 2016. And this is something that we continue to fight. Dispatch centers have always been known as PSAPs, public safety answering points. We're also going over to ECCs, which is emergency communications centers. So in the beginning, it might have been seen as an admin or clerical type of position, but over the years, it completely evolved. With everything that's going on in the beginning, it was the 911 Saves Act. And when this started out, actually had the privilege and honor to be able to announce it over my social media platform in DC, that this was going to be going out there for legislation. It was a bipartisan effort that was going through. It doesn't cost anything. It's just switching us to this class that we deserve to be in, part of this family now. It ultimately ended up not going through. But now, with the Enhancing First Response Act of 2025, this has actually passed the Senate. And this is where we need everyone's help. We need for people to reach out to all of their representatives to say, now that this has passed the Senate, we need this to pass the House as well. And it's something that we're fighting for, we're going to continue to fight for, and that will give us that, not just that recognition, but it will also allow us to be able to finally get some sort of federal study when it comes to PTSD or anything else that affects us, because we are affected by it, impacted by it just as much as those out in the field. When this happens, when this goes through, eventually there will be changes that happen, hopefully with compensation. I have seen ranges where, let's just say people are starting out at $24, $25 an hour. At one time, I saw that a director of a dispatch center was only making $60,000 a year. And I thought, well, that's pretty interesting for them being the director of the entire agency. So if they're making $60 a year, how much are the dispatchers making? And how does that impact everything that is going on? When calls come in today, everything is different. We're going from landlines where you have all of the information right then and there. You confirm it, we send people out. But the majority of people now have cell phones. And when that information comes in, it is not always the best location. If it's a landline, what would pop up on the screen, you've got the name that's registered to that address, you've got the address, you've got a latitude and longitude, and you've got the phone number that's associated to it. So you've got all of this information that's right there. And sometimes you can just send it over to your computer where you're typing everything in. Now, if it's a cell phone, it's a little bit different because now you have kind of the location of where the tower is at. And you have a Latin long, but it's not something that you would immediately go off of. Now, with newer technology, you have this information that's plotting, and it's plotting to an address. It shows up on a map and it plots to an address, or at least the closest address of wherever the person is standing. So that will show up differently. And technology is good enough now that you can actually see where they are. If they're in a building, you might be able to see how high they are, potentially what floor. The technology from when I was in dispatch up until the end of 2013 to the way it is now in 2025 has changed exponentially. You have AI now coming in to the 911 space. It's supposed to be basically a companion on your shoulder, so to speak, that assists you to make the job a lot faster and easier for what it is that is going on, to save even more seconds in what it is that you're doing. It could be language translations. A lot of times, some of the things that would happen, unless it was Spanish, my Spanish isn't the greatest. However, it was good enough that I was able to go through calls. My coworkers would have to go through a service. They would have to call through a service and do that connection where you've got someone who is translating in real time as you're doing it. And while you're talking, you have to talk to that interpreter as if that is the caller. And then we're going back and forth that way. And that in itself, if you think about it, is cutting down time a little bit. With technology the way it is now, you have different platforms that translate all of that stuff for you in real time, and you're just going back and forth. You've also have text to 911, text from 911, where if someone calls in on a cell phone and they hang up, there are some dispatch centers out there that they will do a text from 911 and establish the texting call that way before they actually call. Because a lot of times what we found is when you call back, people don't answer the phone, but they will answer a text. And sometimes there would be, domestic situation that's going on. Dispatchers are able to get officers out there before the suspect or the other party even knows what is going on. The one thing I always tell people is that the human factor will always be important and it will always be needed. AI is there to accompany and assist, not to take over. I was training dispatchers on how to use these different platforms while still doing what I do now, which is the Within the Trenches podcast, and having dispatchers come on and share their stories. I've had dispatchers from all over the world come on to the podcast to just share their stories. Good calls, bad calls, any of those things. A lot of us felt as though we were alone. But when all of these stories came out, we realized there are more people out there that are dealing with the same things. And maybe someone has already dealt with it, and now you can learn from them.
Hi, I'm a producer and Authorized account. If you enjoyed this video, then please subscribe and comment with more topics that you'd like us to cover in this series.